Riding to the Ermengarde Mansion in their ride is an awkward affair. Not only am I worried about scuffing the expensive leather seats, but I'm also worried about getting in the middle of another couple's spat. With the tension thick in the air, I can feel them staring at each other any time. Nobody is saying anything, up until Mr. Wright tells his valet to turn the damn radio off. And for a moment, I think that he might start, but instead he just stays quiet, and so do the rest of us. In the end, the insufferable silence stays. I have never been so glad to see a house. We have the car end up to the mansion meant to end of an uncomfortable ride, and I can finally take a deep breath of fresh air. The beauty of the place never fails to make me gaze in wonder every time I see it as well. Mrs. Wright moves towards the front door, keys in hand, and I can already hear Mr. Wright plotting.
Alrighty, Hans, we're going to go in, but I want you to look around the place. Familiarize yourself with it. Know every nook and cranny, every inch of the lot. Go and see where we can put that vineyard and the other things we talked about. We'll want to know where to station security as well, so go around the perimeter and figure it out.
Scout the property and circle the perimeter on foot. You do know this is 46 acres of land, sir.
Well, you are not driving a car over the grass.
Not even like a golf car?
Put those long, spidery legs of yours to good use. I didn't hire you to stand around and look intimidating. Go, mush.
Someday I'd like to ask how your Hans can even stand and tolerate a man. Why doesn't he just quit? Certainly the pay can't be that good. Even I'm a bit put off by our mutual employee, and the only thing that keeps me from bailing is the fact that we've already signed a contract. At least I'll only be working with them during the duration of the project. He works with them every day.
Sometimes I think you hired me to make me suffer for your amusement.
Someday I'd ask. I feel a bit bad for him. If it's any consolation, he'll be away from Mr. Wright, if only for a little while. We're able to enter the mansion after a bit of standing out there in the sun. This wretched, strange sunlight that is far too alien and rare. There had been a bit of a problem with the missus not knowing which key was which. The first item on the agenda will be the grand staircase. It seems sturdy during the open house, but a close inspection might say otherwise. There are no obvious marks of damage, nor wear and tear. Properly red-threaded during renovations. Picking on the ground carpet, the wood is properly installed with the bark placed down to prevent cupping. The cup itself could use a vacuum tool. Structural conditions, from what I can see without actually dismantling the thing, look to be in good shape, and the handrails and support posts are firm. The work on it should be commended. I can't look much more on the rest of the foyer, however, because Mr. Wright starts to hurry us into checking the dining hall.
So, what do you think? Certainly we can't turn this area into a garage.
It's Jacobean architecture. I'd say these would be pilasters and not buttresses, but you never really know. They really liked mixing up these elements. You could say it was pretty avant-garde at the time. We might hit a support beam if we're not careful.
And in layman's terms?
From what I see here, we could risk great damage to the house if we try to turn the dining hall into a garage.
The man didn't look too pleased at this. There's a look of disappointment before he sighs and looks around the place with an air of defeat. When he moves to speak, I thread another unreasonable demand again.
This will stay a dining hall then. But if I may have another request instead,
Go ahead.
at least spruce the place up with some flowers, some plants or something. It feels so old and dead in here.
Couldn't agree more.
That's hardly unreasonable. Daffodils are a must, I presume.
That look that passed between the two of them. There's a general look of fondness there. This is the first time I've seen such an exchange between the two of them. If anyone ought to see them like this, there is little doubt that they loved each other.
Of course. And I want a garden full of them.
Now, if you excuse me, I'd like to look at the rest of the house. I'll just be around here downstairs if anybody needs me.
At least Mr. Wright and I.
He's quite fond of them, you know.
I can imagine. He looked terribly upset when we told him he can't have his garage.
I meant the daffodils. We always have a vase full of them in every house we own. Somewhere. I'd like to think. They may be about his mother. He never talks about her. I don't even know her name. He likes to flatter, claim that they remind him of me, but he's always loved the flowers, even before we married.
Much like the piano, I didn't take him for a person who liked flowers. Daffodils, least of all. What's next? Am I going to find out that Mr. Wright saves kittens from burning buildings?
I'll go and snoop about upstairs. You go and do whatever it is that you have to do.
When she goes without even asking if I need her here, I'm not standing to stare at the walls. Really, I don't need to do a thorough inspection of the building itself. It isn't really part of an interior designer job. But the architect in me is committed to doing this task with every project. If I'm going to make a living space that have both form and function, I might as well make sure that the entirety of it is safe for my clients. Since I'm already here, I roam around the dining hall to check things off my punch list, if you will. But when it's time to move on, I hesitate. Mr. Wright said he would be somewhere around here on the ground floor. I really didn't want to be alone with Whiskey. I have to look through the place eventually, sure. But on the other hand, I can do it later when he's gone. I can go upstairs first if I want to. Which floor should I go first? So, being on the ground floor, I'll be with Mr. Wright. I don't want to be with Luke. Let's go check the first floor, shall we? I've already seen enough of this floor during the open house. Of course, I know that it's just a convenient excuse. I just don't want to be in the same room as Biscuit anytime soon. So I might as well just go upstairs first. The banisters on the grand staircase landing are solid and at the proper height, and you know when there will be trouble. There's a small catch on the carpet door. Well, as long as nobody tries to run down the stairs until it gets fixed, things should be alright. And the stained glass? Art. Restored, no doubt, an image of the last lady and Lord Ermengarde. Or it was supposed to be, until Lady Charles' fiancé was brutally murdered. Say what? By a witch? A witch of all things! What I've read, I think the historians of this place will be a lot more scrutinizing, filtering out stuff like that. I'm amazed they bothered with it, instead of replacing it with some generic cookie-cutter design. This entire piece alone would have cost roughly 500, even £1 million. Lady Charlotte Ermengarde and the Beloved. Looking at the mosaic, it's not too far a stretch of the imagination to believe that the depicted images could be Mr. and Mrs. Wright. Yeah, they are looking a lot like them, don't they? It can be easily assumed as such, if one doesn't know the history of the mansion. Really, a place like this should be protected by the government as a landmark. But what can I do about it? Walking into the east wing, I try to go into the theatre, but is met with an obstacle. The obstacle that is locked doors. 2 doors. 2! And both of them are locked. I'd be frustrated, but B if I already hadn't snuck off while the Wrights were having their little business meeting with Miss Cooper before the takers peek. With what Mrs. Wright wanted, we have to install a powerful projector, the type they use in cinemas, and projection screen. The seats will have to be reupholstered if they're to be any comfortable, and the walls will have to be covered in dark material paint, wallpaper, install wall-to-wall carpeting. Really, of all the rooms I could be jealous of, it's this one. I could just picture myself in there, watching an old kung fu flicks on a weekend-long marathon. Make me wonder what kind of movies Mr. Wright would like. Rom-coms, perhaps? Maybe she wants that. Her husband, on the other hand, I'd rather not think about it. In the middle of the notation of planning, I don't even realize I'm not alone. Then I'm caught sitting in front of a locked door like a fool.
Were you meaning to go in there? I'm afraid we won't be able to open it up today.
Oh well, I wanted to, but it's fine. I can still survey the rest of the place.
Apologies, but the key was missing when they were handed over. They told us that they'd get right back to us with it.
What? But aren't they supposed to hand over all the keys once property changes hands? That can be grounds to file a complaint.
They were already kind enough to let us move in so early. There's no need to raise a fuss about it. Worst comes to worst, we can call for a locksmith.
The air is heavy and somber when she grows quiet and glances out the window, out towards the vast expanse that surrounded what would be their house, their home. Then she looks back at me with a sigh and a bitter smile.
Flowers. Yellow flowers. Daffodils, dandelions, and sunflowers and the sort all up front. Just a whole garden of them. They'll make the house look lovely, won't they?
Of course. A garden is a wonderful addition to any home.
Though much looking sad about it all. As I say this, her eyes roam over me, scrutinizing and thoughtful. I have to hold back the shiver that threatens to run down my spine at being inspected so closely.
Yes, it must be nice.
We're still talking about the gardens, yes?
I mean not having to worry about what another person thinks of you.
What do you mean by that?
She lifts her hand and points to her wedding ring before it falls listlessly to her side.
Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I didn't marry Luke. There'll be no fights about walk-in closets or silly helipads. I could do with this place as my heart desires until there's nothing but content. Then again, I wouldn't have bought this place if it wasn't a gift for him. I probably wouldn't even be in Luxbourne if it wasn't for him. Maybe I would have moved to London, Manchester, or Birmingham. I might have even left the country altogether. France, Germany, Spain, Canada, Sweden, even America. The possibilities would have been endless.
I don't know what to say to that. What is there to say, really?
I'm sorry, I must sound so petty and ungrateful. I do love him. So very much, even if he can be a bit difficult at times.
Oh no, not at all. I'm just confused why you're telling me this, of all people.
Just a whim, I think. Just flights of fancy, that's all. Don't you ever think about one decision you've made in your life and wonder how much would change if you chose to do things differently?
Think everyone does.
I try not to dwell on the past, ma'am.
The keyword is try, of course. Thinking of the past brings up too many ghosts. Memories of her. And I do wonder what would change if I just said yes when she asked for me. Maybe he'd still be with me. I return to the present. Just like I said, I try not to dwell on the past. You must have been quite a pair.
Quite the pair, Mrs. Wright. Hannah Evans and Luke Wright taking Luxbourne by storm. At least, that's what I've heard.
That gets a giggle out of her. And can I be blamed if I like the way her eyes crinkle? And how she sounded when she laughed?
Quite the celebrity couple, according to all the newspapers. But it wasn't always that way. Father certainly didn't approve of him at first. Why, he told me to stay away from him. Told me that I was too good for him. That's the usual overprotective dad speak, though. But of course you know that.
I don't. I was too busy keeping my grades up at boarding school to maintain my scholarship. Never mind the fact that I went to an all-girls boarding school. So father never had any reason to fuss over boys trying to date his little girl.
And what did you tell him? Considering you are Mrs. Wright now, you or the mister must have convinced him otherwise.
Yes, well, I told him I was my own woman and I could decide who was deserving of me or not on my own. Thank you very much. That never stopped him from making sure Luke couldn't get anywhere near me without an escort and a guard anyway. Though he certainly wasn't that overprotective when I was dating Jack.
Maybe your father considered this Jack a more capable man?
I doubt it. Jacqueline was nowhere close to being any sort of a role model when we were in college. She was rebellious, reckless, and immature. Everything I wasn't. But she was quite the charming, stunning woman, and I think that made her quite likable.
That takes me by surprise. A lot more than by the fact that Mr. Wright's father-in-law didn't like him. That much was to be expected. But this, I have nothing against them because that's their thing. Thought the nuns and the priests would say otherwise. I thought, wasn't she worried about the implications? The rumors that would have arisen about her dating other of the same sex? Especially with someone of her social status.
You look surprised, Marianne. The first thing anybody needs to know about me is that I go after what I want. And
Ooh la la.
when it comes to who I love, it doesn't matter to me whether they're a man or a woman.
It's a nice enough sentiment. Still, the thought that this lovely lady before me had once been with another woman. I can feel my cheeks heat up a bit and I panic, thinking they might be red enough for Mrs. Wright to notice. I can tell that a coy smile graces her lips.
Legs, we called her, because of how often she was running about because of one thing or another. Climbing up walls and, what do they call it now? Parkour. And also because of her, well, legs.
And you went after her?
Not right away. When I first met her, I wanted nothing to do with her. She was so improper and uncouth. But I slowly realized that didn't mean she was a bad person. On the contrary, she did many a good thing and was always so nice to others. I found myself confused. I couldn't figure out if I wanted to be her or wanted to be with her. So I approached her, told her that I might have fancied her.
And your father didn't mind?
He must have thought it was my form of rebellion. But he never watched out for Jack as much as he watched out for Luke. If I didn't love my father so much, if he hadn't raised me right, I think I might have told him to bugger off. He's never been more attentive of me than when I started bringing home dates.
I'm sure he loved you very much.
She laughs once more, a glow about her. I know, she says with a smile.
I suppose I've taken too much of your time with my silly stories. You still have much to inspect?
I still have most of this floor, and I'll want a quick run-through of the ground floor again later.
I shan't keep you from your work any longer then. Just call me if you need anything. I'd like to look around myself.
When she turns to leave, she glances back at me before disappearing into the foyer. I look at the window from where she was standing, and I move on, alone with nothing but my thoughts and her.
Finally, some peace and quiet. Thought the old biddy would never leave.
It's all a madness, this hearing things. I reckon it's the stress. I don't know what exactly I'm stressed about. If meeting Mrs. Wright has really thrown me for a loop, I'd be worried. If I'm developing some sort of psychosis or disorder, well, I'd call a doctor. But nobody isn't that. Well, not right here and not right now. I mean, it could just be that personal talking cricket, conscious, so to speak, and I'm only noticing now. But if it is, it isn't very helpful. Pushing dilemma of voices in my mind aside, I go back to work. But I can barely make it a few steps before everything tilts and shifts. Not really stumble, but it feels like I'm being thrown off my feet and the rest of the world just follows. Though my feet stay firm on the ground and even I stay mostly upright, I feel like I've been heaved and put off balance. I have to close my eyes in the hopes of feeling the sudden sense of vertigo away. But when I open them, I don't want to open them. Well, I don't feel any less sick because of the sight it creates me. Blood dripped from the walls and the ceiling, pooling downwards and seeping into the curtains and the carpet. A wave of nausea, stronger than the last, hits me along with the overpowering stench of blood and gore. I want to bolt. The rational part of my head is telling me to flee, and I would have gladly done as it asked, if only I didn't hear her.
In here, Marianne. Come on, I have something to show you.
I could have ignored it. Would have ignored it, if I only heard it in my head. But I swear this time, It's coming from one of the rooms, much further into the study, and I feel compelled to pay attention. I can't just turn around and leave. Not when it's her. I don't even think as I followed the sound of her voice. Lorraine. Thick as thieves, alright. Lovely Amanda Lorraine, La chère Fiona. She was my friend, the only one that I had at St. Samantha's. I was a scholar, the charity case, in a school of privileged and prestigious young girls. They all looked down at me, if they cared to look at me or acknowledge my presence at all. All except her.
Oh, stop your crying. You know better than to listen to Maeve. Why, I ought to teach that butterface a lesson.
Wait, no, lass! I don't want you getting into trouble with the sisters again!
Relax. It's not like I'm going to stomp her and her lackey's arses flat like last time.
Come on, let's just go back to our dorm room. I don't want to be on my Tobler while you go get yourself punished.
You'll be fine. Gip's there with you.
Lorraine was there when I needed her, through my highs and lows. Having her as a friend made being in a strange school, away from my father, all the more tolerable. She saw this poor, helpless girl who was kept down and shunned by everyone else, and being the kind soul that she was, she rescued me. So brave, so beautiful. She was something else.
I'll eat all the chocolates stashed away in your closet if you go.
I can get more. Just don't go complaining to me if you get a tummy ache because of that.
Well, you don't want to get detention on a weekend, do you? It's a Friday. We can go to town and have some karaoke. And we can have a go at druids and demons again. You're not going to miss that just because of Maeve, are you?
Sometimes I question what I did to deserve a friend like her. In the darkest corners of my mind, where traitorous thoughts lurked, I thought that she only felt sorry for me. Maybe she was just being a good Samaritan offering a helping hand. And perhaps I had been too selfish to return the favour.
You have a point. I'll just kick her arse on Monday then.
That's not what I mean.
I know what you mean, Em.
Wait, where are you going? You just told me you wouldn't cause trouble.
I still have something to do. Don't worry, it's not like I'm going to burn down her dorm room or something criminal like that. I'm just going to talk to her. Maybe I'll make it so that her room smells like a dog's air biscuit. That'll make it an excellent weekend. I'll see you in a bit, Marianne. Lots of tobblers.
Because when she told me that she loved me, I could admit that I felt the same way. Not to her, and not even to myself. I was wrong. I was thought that way. Husband and wife, one man and woman, unclean, impure. I prayed for her and I, for our sins and for salvation. I wanted to apologize for disregarding her feelings so callously. It must have been like a slap in the face for her. But life had gotten in the way. Exams, which were trivial in hindsight now, took top priority. I had to keep my grades up to keep my scholarship for my father. I told myself I would apologize to her when those were over, and I needed to focus first and not let anything distract me. It had been easy when she avoided me like the plague. She was upset, I can't add. I thought I had the time to make things right, but...
At 7 in the morning, students found a 5th year dead, assumed to have fallen from her dormitory window.
They told us that it was an accident. That was official statement. But I knew better. She was dead because of me.
Maeve had a hook and I kicked the bucket, didn't she? Ding dong, the witch is dead!
She had. Though she didn't say which, Lorraine.
But at least Maeve had the courage to admit how she felt about me.
I don't even know how long I've been stuck in a trance. In the mirror, Lorraine smiles at me. She's as beautiful as I remember her. But then... I feel bile rise up in my throat as a clean image wraps into how she looked like when they had found her dead, lying on the cold hard ground. good Saint Dimphna, great wonder work and every affliction of mind and body, help me. I'm seeing things, hearing things. Am I going completely insane? Looking everywhere but her. I hope and pray that it's enough to will whatever this is to go away. It doesn't even immediately register in my head that I can just leave.
You, on the other hand, can't even look me in the eye.
This isn't real. You're not. You're dead!
I'm dead. Because of you. And you won't even look at me. Look at me.
My breathing quickens and I can feel my heart being torn apart by her words.
I'm so sorry, Lorraine.
Look at me!
I can't take it because she's right. It was my fault. The least I can do is look at what I've done. Lorraine, broken and bleeding, looks at me with such hate-filled eyes. An unnatural smile stretches across her face and I can only see malice in it. My gosh! Then she launches the mirror, ripples around her form, the glass spotting like the water surface for her. She grips me at shoulders and I can feel her nails dig deep, sharp, even through the fabric of my clothes.
There you are.
Let go of me. Oh wait, I do.
Why are you of me?
Apologies spilled through my lips as tears cloud my vision. But I won't give in to this madness. With every bit of strain I've left, I struggle to get away from her. Fear grips and tries to choke me. I endure, I escape, and without turning back, I stumble back out. In my panic, I don't even care to look where I'm going. With one hand on the wall steadying me, I just hobble as far as I can away from the study, away from the mirror. Freedom is bittersweet. I'm free from the madness, it seems. And strolling out into the hallway reveals it to be in pristine condition. But it means I've turned my back on Lorraine again. I have no plans of stopping, not that I know I'm safe. And if that means walking back to Luxbourne, as ridiculous as the idea is, then so be it. Someone suddenly grabs hold of me, however. Fingers digging deep into my shoulders, and my heart nearly stops. My body seizes and I nearly scream.
Marianne, you look awful. I mean, not awful, but... Did something happen? Are you alright?
This is right. I...
Without thinking, I sought comfort, seeing that it wasn't her. It's a sudden impulsive thing to do, and had I been in a better condition, I wouldn't even dare of doing such a thing. But I didn't know what else to do. Though I know I shouldn't. Her warmth, her scent, they grounded me. She is intoxicating.
Marianne, what's going on? Oh, you're shaking like a leaf.
Tremors run through my body as soon as my mind realized I am no longer in danger. I wanted to cry, scream at what I've seen. Like a scared child, I couldn't control myself. My mind couldn't reconcile with what I had seen. I should just write it off as a figment of my imagination. And I can still feel her nails cutting into my skin.
Are you sick? Should I call for a doctor?
I'm sorry, Mrs. Wright. Just feeling a little woozy and lightheaded is all.
Let's get you somewhere to sit down then. Come on, don't worry, I have you.
I lie. But a whole lot less complicated than telling her I was attacked by that girl. When the feeling of fear eases off, I feel nothing but shame for my actions. I quickly back away as I clear my throat and not my thanks.
I think I've had enough looking around. If it's all right with you and Mr. Wright, I'll meet you outside.
If you're sure, I'll have the car started. Do you need assistance heading downstairs?
I'm all right, ma'am. Just go on ahead and I'll be right there.
It seems to placate her worries, though only for a brief second. Before she heads down, I don't miss the concerned glances she shoots my way, hidden quickly on another smile. I won't begrudge her for it, that worry. The look on my face must have been strange enough sight on its own. Even I am still reeling from it, from whatever that was. Her voice still whispering in my ears. After all these years, she still... No, Marianne. Shook me up the thoughts I dragged in her breath, then followed shortly after Mrs. Wright. Whatever has happened in the past, it's long gone. Only memories now, and those are things I can no longer bring back. Utterly dark as we make our way out of the mansion. With no lights, we are only illuminated by the headlamps of the Wright's car and the stars above us. The sight of them helps me compose myself much more than several minutes of being alone did. The car's engine is running, yet the two still stand out on the lawn. Mrs. Wright is busy, eye up to the stars, and Mr. Wright, arms crossed, has his eyes down on the ground. It's the crunch of glass on my heels that brings their attention to me.
About time, what took you so long? A minute longer and I'd think the house swallowed you all up.
It nearly did.
Oh, hush, dear. I'm sure she has her reasons. Marianne doesn't seem the sort to idle.
Sorry, I was just checking on something important.
See, business is business and they take time, love. You should know that better than anyone. So, Marianne, what do you think? Are you the woman for the job? I know we already signed papers hiring you, but I want to be 100% sure that you are committed.
I glanced back towards the mansion, knowing what I had seen there, or rather, who I thought I saw there. Because there's just no way. Not to mention how I acted towards Mrs. Wright, for goodness sake. I should feel the slightest bit hesitant. I was lucky. I've seen enough films to know what happens when a promiscuous woman enters a haunted house. This is my chance to turn it down, make excuses so that I'm not up to the task, that I need to take care of my old sick father. Just pay the fine, which is probably outrageous for a contract like this, and let it go. I should turn it down, but for some obstinate reason I can't. In the same manner, I haven't let go of her, but the regret that has shadowed me since that day. Much I hate to admit it, even to myself seeing her again, the mischievous glint in her eyes, the loose tendrils of her hair curled around her forehead. It's something I've terribly missed, and now that it's here, almost within arm's reach, My father would tell me, sometimes you just simply have to go through with it. Consequences be damned. And well, I really don't have any logical reason to say no. At least not something a client like the Wrights would want to hear from a professional designer.
It's certainly an interesting project. You can be sure I'm seeing it through the end.
Such dedication! Oh, I do love the determination.
You were always determined like that, weren't you?
Hearing her voice once again sends a chill running down my back. I can't wait for this day to be over. From the mansion and through Anselm, I rode with them in silence. But as soon as we hit City proper, I asked to be dropped off and bid them good night. I thought it'd be best if I didn't stay too long in confined spaces with either Mrs. or Mr. Wright. Both seemed to cause me serious trouble, and if the project had been any less interesting or grand, I would have dropped it without a second thought. Would have, shouldn't have, won't. I assured him that my place isn't that far off, and have to fight off the urge to roll my eyes and burn when whiskey throws me a little smirk. But even in my own home, peace is elusive as I sleep. I lie awake, think of what I saw in the mansion, of who I saw. If I so much see a wisp of her hair, I'm afraid I'll go mad. But none of that happens. It makes me feel hollow. For 2 nights I've had trouble sleeping, but it's only one morning, when Deke has already let me rest, that I'm reminded of what terrifies me so.